Hey guys, so this video is going to explain my personal Tesla buyback experience, and hopefully this will help you or help someone that you know who is going through a similar situation. Maybe it will give you guys a few pointers or, just take something away from this video, hopefully. So just a personal disclosure, I do live in New York, so everything is based off of the limit law here in New York. But the limit law is very similar in every single state. And yes, there are a few differences here and there, but the ultimate goal is to protect you as the consumer from faulty defects and repeatedly going to the shop to try and fix an issue that just won't ever get fixed. So I think in order to understand what or how to go about this process, the first thing to do is to understand what the limit law is and what a buyback is. So just very simply, through Wikipedia, they said that limit law are laws that provide a remedy for purchasers of cars and other consumer goods in order to compensate for products that repeatedly fail to meet standards of quality and performance. So if you have an issue with your Tesla that compromises your safety or the safety of the people that's going to be in your car, then yes, you do qualify to go down the limit law route if you've been to the auto body shop numerous amounts of time and the issue is just not resolved. So what is a buyback? A buyback is basically you have a time frame to do this. After the time frame, you won't be able to do this. So a buyback is essentially what the cost of the car that you paid for plus any interest if you took out a loan, and minus the miles, any miles over $12,000 that you have driven. And that is the money that you will get back, or that is the money that Tesla will cut you out a check for. So let's begin what my process was that I went through and how I completed my process. So maybe you will know how to complete your process. So I placed an order for my Tesla Y Performance on November 11th of 2021. And at that time, it was at Tesla's peak pricing. So my Tesla Y Performance was $62,990. I paid another $1,000 to choose a color of my choice. And then there was a $1,200 destination fee and a $250 order fee, which you do get the order fee back after you take delivery of your car. In New York, there is also a $500 drive clean rebate. And with the New York State taxes, my car came to a total of $71,711.02. I paid off everything except for $10,000, which I financed through Tesla with a bank that they were partnered with. I financed $10,000 over the course of 36 months at an interest rate of 2.49%. So that came out to $288.88 per month for 36 months, aka 3 years. And I'll let you guys know why that's relevant later, because as I mentioned in the intro, that they do pay you back your interest that you pay for if you were successfully doing a buyback. Now, when I took delivery of my car, which was January 19th of 2021, the weather was super cold. So I wasn't able to test out the window function that I ultimately had the issue with. When I first got into my car, I did notice that I had a huge radio issue. So the radio station that I listened to personally, it was cutting in and out. There was echoing. There were everything that someone was saying, it was repeated about 3 times. And I do have these cutouts every few seconds that, I will miss a segment of whatever they were saying. So I brought it to Tesla and they said, yes, we were able to replicate the situation, but the situation is not something that is compromising the safety of your driving or the safety or the function of the car. So they basically made a note of it, sent it up to the engineer/software team. And what happens with Tesla is if quite a few people reports it, then the engineer team is going to go ahead and take a look at it and then do some software or updates. Some software updates, and then it will be pushed through your car. And once the update hits, it should rectify the situation. So they call it over the air update. I said, fine. It was very annoying. They didn't give me an ETA of when it was going to be complete, so I was just at their mercy. But I understood it wasn't anything that would compromise my safety or the safety of the people in the car with me. So I took that and I just dealt with it. And surely in about 3 or 4 months, an update came through and it was fixed. Amazing. Now, a few months later, now we are getting to a little bit of a warmer weather, spring, I would say. Like starting in March / the beginning of April, I started using my windows a little bit more often to, get some fresh air as I'm driving. And I did notice that when I do open my window and with the hard click on my window function where the window is supposed to go up on its own, it goes up and then it will come down halfway. Now, it didn't happen all the time. It happened sporadically. And I didn't really care for it. I was okay with it. But there was one day where I was taking my mom out. And, during April, we do spring cleaning here. And there was a house that was doing spring cleaning. And I knew I was driving by that house. So I hard clicked both of our windows. And my window went up and her window went up and it went back down. So now the dust came blowing inside. And I didn't want to make it a big deal at the time. So I just reclosed it and just brushed it off like it was nothing. But it started happening a little bit more and more often because I was using my window more and more often. So I made my first appointment about my window issue on May 2nd of 2022. I took it to one of my dealership and they said, okay, we'll look into it. They gave me the car back rather quickly. They gave me back the car the same day and they said, hey, we're not able to replicate the situation. We can't see the situation. We can't see the issue. We can't, we can't duplicate the issue. But they did test out the window multiple times and they said that it was functioning just fine. All right, fine. I took it home and, I tested out myself. I believe they did reconfigure and recalibrate my car window. I did test it out for a little bit, but the issue was still there. So I booked another appointment on June 8th. Now, here's the thing with booking the appointment that I didn't know before. They do give you Uber credit. So I didn't know that. So I actually took my own Uber, which I thought was really wrong for them not to tell me, especially they knew that I needed a way of transporting myself. So I thought it was just a heads up. They do give you Uber credit if you drop off your car for service. And if it is going to take an extensive amount of time, if it's only going to take about 30 minutes, I feel like they are going to be a little reluctant to give you the Uber credit. But if it's going to take upwards of 2 hours, you could definitely request for the Uber credit, which is $100 per day. Anything over $100, you will have to come out of your own pocket. Now, if they do have to keep the car there for a few days, most likely they will give you a loaner car. They're still very reluctant on giving the loaner car, but they will if you do make a fuss about it. Also keep in mind that you do need to have your key card with you. They do need to take that key card. I get it that most of us uses our cell phone, but when you put your car for service, obviously they're not going to take your cell phone from you, so they do need your key card in order to access your car. So the second appointment that I made was for June 8th for the same issue. Now, again, they weren't able to duplicate the situation. However, this time they said, hey, when it does happen again, can you please jot down the date, the time, and how many times that happened? So after this, they sent me on my way again. But this time I knew that every time it happened, I would jot down notes of the date, the time, and and how many times I need to click my window in order for my window to go all the way up. So I made a third appointment, which was for June 27th of 2022. So about 3 weeks later, or 2 or 3 weeks later. And I gave them the date, I gave them the timestamp. But again, they said that they weren't able to replicate the situation even with the date and timestamps. So at this point, this is my third visit, I got a little agitated, I got a little annoyed. And I said to them, listen, it is happening. I don't know what you want me to do. this needs to be fixed, because God forbid if something happens to me in my car, I need my window to be functioning at all times, because it is an escape point. So the door, the window, the trunk, those are all exit points for you, because obviously the sunroof does not open. So those are your exit points, and my exit points needs to be working 110% of the time. God forbid one of those incidences happen. So they said, well, unfortunately, we're not able to replicate the situation, and every time we test it out, it's been just fine. All right, fine. I took the car back, and this time what I did was I made sure to put my phone in my cup holder. I wasn't holding it. I put my phone in my cup holder, and every time that I'm driving, I would put the phone on record, and I would just play around with the window. Now, this time I was able to record it happening, and I was able to show them the video clips of the proof that I had that this was happening, so they don't think that I'm crazy, because I'm sure at this point they think I'm crazy. So now they are able to see that there was something wrong with my window. Even though they weren't able to replicate the situation, they were able to see that there was something wrong with the window. So they reconfigured my windows again, they recalibrated it, and now this time they changed out the regulator. And they said, hey, we changed out the regulator, it should be fine. They gave me back my car. Long story short, no, it did not fix it. So this time I made an appointment with another dealership. So this appointment was for July 13th. And I said, hey, I've been to the other dealership. I don't think they're taking me seriously, or not to a point that I felt like they took me seriously. So they said, okay, no problem. They took the car in. They saw my videos, but they weren't really concerned about the videos. They said, you know what, we're going to change out the motor in your door. So they changed out the motor in my driver door, because that was the window that I was using the most. Long story short, they changed out the motor. It worked pretty well for like a day or two. I mean, the issue was still happening, but it was significantly less for about, I want to say the first few days. And it just went back to the same way it was before. So I made another appointment on August 27th. And this time, they said the same thing. Hey, we weren't able to replicate the situation. I had more video proof. This whole time that I was driving the car for the last 2-3 months, I was videotaping it every single time that it was happening. So I had more than sufficient proof that this was happening. So after the August 27th, they gave me back my car, and they said, hey, we weren't able to find anything wrong with it. Now this time I'm a little annoyed. At this point, I made an appointment for the window for May 2nd, June 8th, June 27th, July 13th, August 27th. And my final appointment that I made for it was for September 7th. And at the September 7th appointment, now, I mean, going 5 times being on the phone, I was beyond myself at this point. So I spoke to one of the managers at that location. I said, look, it's not working out very well. There has to be something that you guys can do about this window, because none of the other people that I knew that had a Tesla was having this issue. And the window is a huge concern for any driver, not just myself, for any driver of any car manufacturer. And she said, hey, I get it. Let me give you a loaner car. I am going to have one of my engineer team come to the store, and for them to personally take a look at my car. So not just their service members, but like a special team that came and took a look at the car. So I said, fine. I took the loaner car for about 4 days, and then she contacted me and said, hey, they didn't find anything wrong with the car. And honestly, at this point, there's nothing that we can do, because every time they tested out, there was nothing wrong with it. Fine. At this point, it was my 6th appointment. I was exhausted. I couldn't do it anymore. I mean, I work 5 days a week. I couldn't. It was just beyond exhausting at this point. So I just said, you know what? The winter's coming. I'm just going to live with it until next year. And hopefully, maybe miraculously, it will fix by itself. So a few months goes by, and we are on January 19th of 2023, which is, if you remember, it's the exact 1-year anniversary of my car, because I took delivery of my car on January 19th of 2022. So now on January 19th of 2023, I was off from work. I did my daily grocery shopping. I got home at about 5:40, I want to say, and I parked my car in my driveway. I came back out about 6:20 because I forgot something in my car, and I locked my car and I went back home. That night in particular in New York, it was raining and hailing and storming. It was extremely bad weather. But I was indoors. My car was fine, whatever. Went to sleep at around 10 something. The next day I woke up. Actually, the next day I didn't even wake up. My mom woke up. She was taking out the trash because it was garbage day. And she walked past my car, and on the way walking back, she noticed that all of my car windows were down. And they weren't down just a little. They were down, I want to say, about 8 to 9 inches down. So they were halfway down, and it was all 4 of them. And it was just completely drenched inside my car. She ran to me and she goes, "Your car windows are down. Did you not close them?" And I was like, "Excuse me? What do you mean my car windows are down?" First of all, I have the option. So in your car, you have the option to have the windows automatically close when you walk away and the door locks. So I was like, "No, the windows are locked. They automatically lock." She goes, "No, all your windows are down. Come look." So I get dressed. I run out. And it was cold. I mean, it's January 19th. And I look at my car, and inside was just drenched. And when I tell you it was drenched, I have all weather mats. I had to take out the mats and pour the water out. It was drenched. My dog's bed is in the back seat, drenched. It was, I didn't even have any words for it. At this point, I was in shock. I was in disbelief. And I didn't even know what to do. So I just cleaned off my seat, took out the water out from my all-weather mats, and I drove straight to the Tesla station, the Tesla shop. And I just said to them, I said, "I don't know what happened. I woke up. All 4 of my windows are down the same length. My car is flooded. So the guy gave me a loaner car, and he said, "We're going to look into it." And at this point, I'm just like bawling my eyes out. And I was just crying uncontrollably. And he gave me my loaner car, and he sent me on my way. And I went home, and I had to take a few to collect myself and think straight, because this has never happened to me before. So what I decided to do was, luckily, I have the Ring camera right outside my house. I have the flood camera, the Ring flood cam. And I reviewed my flood camera, my Ring flood camera, and I noticed that at about 6:40 p.m., so 20 minutes after I came back in the house from picking up my stuff, at 6:40 p.m., the windows went down on its own about 2 inches. All 4 of them went down on its own about 2 inches. And it had already begun raining at that point, but it was pretty light. It wasn't too heavy. And I fast forward, and I noticed that at 7:40, again, the windows went down. All 4 of them went down on its own again. Another about 2-3 inches. And then fast forward again. At about 11:20, I want to say, or just a little over 11, the windows went down again on its own. Another, I want to say this time it went down a little bit further, about 3-4 inches. So all in total, my window went down about 8 to 9 inches. And I told them that, hey, the windows went down on its own the next day. The next day I actually drove back to the auto body shop and I said, hey, I have video clip proof from my Ring camera that the windows went down automatically on its own 3 different times. So I spoke to a different manager there and I said, hey, I need to understand exactly what happened. And she said to me, hey, we were looking at your car and we have done a deep clean in your car and we've aired it out, but the passenger seat is not functioning properly. It thinks that somebody is sitting in there due to the water damage. So they had to reorder a passenger seat for me, which costed $2,000, which they flat out offered to pay for me. They were like, it cost $2,000, but as a goodwill, we will pay for that for you. And I was like, goodwill? Goodwill? Don't give me that goodwill BS. This happened on its own, which is no fault of mine, so don't tell me it was due to goodwill. And I said, hey, what exactly happened? She said, we really don't know at this particular time because it was just a day after. She said, all we know is that there was a command from a third-party app that vented the windows. Now, if you're a Tesla owner, you know that venting the window is a possibility from the phone. But once you vent it, it only goes down about 1 to 2 inches. It won't go down more than that to prevent theft. And once you vent it and you click that vent button again, it will close. It won't open it further. There's no opening further due to the vent. So I said to her, I said, I understand the vent. If it went down one time, I get it. I will take full responsibility because, things might have happened. But it went down 3 times. And there was no notification through my phone that my window was open, or else I would have went and closed it. So A, there was no notification through my phone that all the windows are open. B, it's impossible for my car window to vent 3 times consecutively without closing. She said, at this current moment, I don't have any further details. When we do have further details, we will let you know. Fine. A week goes by and I am in contact with the service manager now. And I said, hey, what is going on? And he said, we've looked at everything. We've dried out your car. We've changed out the some switch in your door because that was damaged as well. We changed out the passenger seat. Everything seems fine. I said, no, I am not taking a car that has been water damaged, especially when it is not due to my doing. Now, keep in mind that the thing with Tesla is if you do not request for a buyback, they will keep on trying to fix your issue. And at this point, my issue was beyond fixing. I have went to service 6 times. I have sufficient video proof that this has been happening. I have my Ring camera proof that the windows went down on its own 3 separate times. And I said, I need you guys to start a buyback process because no matter how much you clean a car, you have cloth material, you have this material underneath the car. I'm not taking a car that might possibly have mildew, with wetness, mildew built up, and the weather was getting nicer. I'm not taking a car that might get moldy. I'm not taking a car that's been water damaged due to something that I did not cause. So I need you to start a buyback process for me. So he said, fine, no problem. I get it. We'll start the buyback process. So the buyback process was started for me, I believe either on February 2nd or February 4th or February 3rd. One of those 3 days, he started the buyback process. Now the buyback process, he has to write a document or he has to fill a form, write an email to the buyback department, and they have to look through all your service tickets. They have to look through your issue, and they are the ones to approve it. So it's not up to any of the service managers at the auto body shop. So I want you guys to keep that in mind, that it's not them that makes the final decision. It is the special department that makes the final decision after they've looked at how many times you've called in, how much hours you've spent on the phone or in the auto body shop trying to fix this issue. And they basically determine everything. Now keep in mind that this is a process, because it's just one department that does a buyback for all the Teslas all over the world. So it is going to be a lengthy process. I waited about 5 weeks to hear back. Now during this 5 week, I did do my own research. I have contacted a few lawyers. Now, getting a lawyer for the lemon law is excruciatingly hard if you are not in California. I called probably 24 people, 24 lawyers, and maybe 2 or 3 got back to me, but none of them were in New York. They were in like Michigan or like in North Carolina and things like that. But everybody does everything virtually, so it doesn't really matter anyways. And they were willing to take on my case because they said that I had a sufficient amount of service tickets, I had a sufficient amount of proof, and all of that. So it was going to be quite easy for them. If your case is not easy, most likely they're not going to even take their time to kind of evaluate it for you or take on your case, because lemon law lawyers, they don't really make a lot of money, to be very honest with you. So during this interim, I kind of knew that they were going to approve it. There was no not approving it with the sufficient amount of evidence that I personally had in my hand. I said, listen, I said to service manager, I said, hey, listen, there's no approving it. It's either you approve it or I will take Tesla to court. And with the amount of sufficient evidence that I have, I will win. And on top of that, I went online and I filled out a form for what is this form called? It is a form with the New York State New Car Lemon Law Arbitration Program. So I just went on the site, I filled out the form, and I showed it to him. I said, hey, is there a need for me to send this out? He said, no, I don't think there is a need for you to send this out. You have a very good chance of getting your buyback done. And he said, I would not do a buyback for anyone unless I know that they have a very good chance of completing the buyback, because it's not an easy process. So during the time that I'm still waiting to hear back for the buyback, I did place an order for my new Tesla Model Y Performance in the same exact color, because I knew what was going to happen. So I placed this order, I think around early March. I want to say about March 5th, I want to say. They got back to me about March 11th or something to tell me that, yes, they were going to approve the buyback. They sat down with me and they jotted down some numbers. Well, we communicate everything over the email and over the phone about how much I paid, what are the payments that I made, how much the payments were, and how far along I was with my loan. Now, I paid my loan rather quickly. So when we started this in February, I was already paid up until June of 23. So I was already paid up quite a few months. So I had to show them documents of all the payments that I've made, and their finance team calculated everything. And the number that I got back was this. Give me 1 second. I wrote down everything in my book. So I paid a total of $4,421.69. That's for all the payments, including my finance, my APR, my interest. So out of everything, they gave me back $65,433.62. And they also paid off the remainder of my loan with the bank, which was around $5,600. Now, keep in mind that if you do have an open loan, now this is a lengthy process. If you do have an open loan with a bank, you have to let the bank know that your buyback has been approved by Tesla, and for them to postpone or put a pause on the payments so that it does not affect so that it does not affect you making further payments or having a delinquent late payment on your credit report. So that's very important. I didn't have to do that because I was already paid off quite a few months, early. But for a lot of people who do have a very large loan payment, it's not as simple to pay it off. So just keep that in mind, that you do have the option to call your bank that you do the loan with for them to pause or postpone due to a current approved buyback. And with that, they will pause it, and there will be no further interest accrued or anything like that. And you will be able to not make any payments, nor worry about the late payments affecting your credit report. So that is very, very important. So after the buyback was approved and everything, it did take about 6 weeks for them to mail me back my check. So within 6 weeks, they mailed me my check. So they mailed it out on the 17th because the 17th of May was when I saw that the bank was paid off. So May 17th, they mailed out the check and they paid off my US bank. I got the check on the 19th, and because it does take a few days, and I think it was the weekend, it didn't clear until I think the 22nd or the 23rd, which is fine. For such a large amount, it does take a few days for the bank to make sure that it is authentic, for the bank to know that, the money is rightfully yours. So now, 2 weeks later, and I'm reflecting on everything that I've been through, it's been a journey. It's been a learning journey, that's for sure. I wish that there were videos from other people who's gone through the buyback process that I can kind of watch and relate to. But unfortunately on YouTube, there weren't any or much to begin with. So hence why the reason that I'm making my video is to try and inform all of you about the experience that I went through. And hopefully that will give you some perspective on how you can go about making your claim to Tesla if you do have an issue with your car. Remember, Tesla is a technology car. It's fully technology. So there are going to be bumps and hiccups along the road. But all in all, it is a phenomenal car. Phenomenal car to drive. Phenomenal car. It's very low maintenance. Hence why I got another one. And they will do right by you at the end of the day. And if they don't, then this is where the lemon law kicks in. And you have to see if this route is right for you. So keep in mind this. If there is a safety concern, definitely bring it up to their attention. Do not wait for it, because then they'll be like, well, why'd you wait? Why did it take you so long to come to us? And also keep in mind that any mile you drive over 12,000, they will take it off of your buyback process. So when I gave back my car, I had a little over 14,000. I think I have 14,108 miles. So I was over by about 2,000 miles. So they did deduct a little, I think $1,500 or a little over $1,000 for the miles I've driven over 12,000, which I say, you know what, it's fair, it's fine. At this point, it is whatever. So I'm not going to argue. I've driven the car for about a year already, and to take out $1,500 is honestly the least of my worries. So keep that in mind. They do deduct money for any miles you charge that you drive over 12,000. Overall, this has been an experience. And if you do have any questions, I will try my best to answer it to the best of my ability. But do keep in mind that every single state has their own version of the limit law via Tesla. But the ultimate goal is to protect you as the consumer for any safety faultiness within a reasonable amount of time. So keep that in mind. So again, if you guys have any questions, I will try my best to answer it. I can't guarantee that I can't answer every single question because every state is a little bit different. But if you do have a question, drop it down in the comments below. Share this with someone if you know that they're going through a similar situation. I know Tesla was going through a lot with their window situation. It doesn't happen to every car again. It happened to my particular car. But again, if you have any questions, drop it down in the comments and I will do my best to answer them. So this concludes my video. Thank you for watching it for such a lengthy video, and I hope it was informative. So with that, thank you and have a good one, guys. Bye.